Have you ever thought about getting rid of your car? If not, your opinion could change in the next 30 minutes. We are very happy to welcome one of the most influential movers and shakers in the automotive industry. After successful spells at GM, Opel, and Volvo, he is now changing the way we think about cars and car ownership. Please welcome Alain Visser, the CEO of Lynk & Co. So during Alain's keynote, if you go onto our website, you can send us a question, and we will get an answer from Alain after his presentation. But first, let's start with a film to give you a first impression.
This is not a car. This is different. This is your car. Or a car for all of you. Shareable like a pizza. Or not. Your choice. This is a car for those who want things just the way they want things. This is not an optional extra. Everything is included. This is not a disclaimer telling you that the car shown is not actually the car you get. This is the car you get. This is an escape. And so is this. This seat is made from nylon waste, like fishing nets and stuff. This is not a salesperson you'll ever have to haggle with. This is everything taken care of. This isn't a commitment. This is a car for a month, 6 months, forever. It's up to you. This is not a car. This is a new way to car.
Alain, the floor is yours.
Okay, thanks very much, Lara, and great to be on this project, and I hope you can see and hear me well. Okay, great. I thought I'd just go through the presentation, give you a little bit of background, what Lynk & Co is, why we are doing this, how we're doing it, what the mission is, but maybe also not necessarily in this presentation, but if you want, also we can cover in the Q&A a bit the future of mobility, of how I see it and how we see the future of mobility, because I think what we're doing with Lynk & Co is definitely something new, but is that the end of the journey? I don't think so. But let me start by explaining a bit what Lynk & Co is, what the mission is, etc. So the whole journey started in actually end of 2015, when the idea was to start a new brand, and initially it was a new car brand. And the basic first question to ask, and that I asked myself, is does the world really need a new car brand? And I guess you know the answer, it was clearly no. I have spent, as you may have read, quite a long time in the car industry, actually, a very long time, 34 years. And I have been very much shocked by the fact that if you look at how this industry works, it's definitely not in tune with what is happening in the world from a consumer point of view. And I really thought, okay, if you then need to start a car brand, doing the same but doing it better is definitely not the answer. There's so much going on in the world from a consumer trend point of view that is not reflected in the car industry. Basically, the model has been the same for 100 years. So we said, let's have a look a bit at how the car industry is today, and look at that. Let's go back maybe to the previous slide and look how that reflects how that is reflected in society. And basically, when you look at the car industry today, from its origin, it's a technological invention. And I know this sounds all a bit philosophical, but I think it's quite interesting, is that basically a machine replaced a horse. It's a pure technology invention at a time where branding, customer service, mobility, it was all about a technology. In the next phase, it was then how to make these cars. And it's basically an automobile replaced a horse. Then you needed to get many horses, many automobiles. So Henry Ford invented the mass production, but it's still a technology thing. It's still a very technology evolution and thing that we're talking about. How these things would be branded, serviced, and even sold was not really totally on the agenda, which is also why then the dealer franchise dealer network was invented. And if you think about it, it's actually quite strange because that still exists today. The whole model of the car companies engineering, designing, manufacturing cars, then shipping them to the dealers who then sell them and service them is the model of the last century. It hasn't moved a bit. And if you compare that with the massively, fastly changing consumer trends, it's quite shocking. And if you look at the model in terms of what it delivers, it's not really something to be proud of. It's an expensive concept, and it's also a concept that not a lot of customers are really happy about. And with all the respect that I have for the dealer network, because there's quite a lot of super good dealers around, it's scary to say that in a research that was done in the US a couple of years ago, they were found out that about 30% of the car buyers prefer to go to a dentist than to a car dealership. So it's basically a model of which you could say, why do that? And then if you approach it even more from a philosophical point of view, I've always been intrigued that you see a lot of industries very much trying to own the customer touch points, because that's where you first make the money, but secondly, build the brands. So you try to, if there's one thing you want to insource, then it's really this consumer touch points. The car industry does the other way around. We insource everything, absolutely everything, but the only thing that we truly outsource is the customer touch points to franchise dealer works. Not a very, I think, intelligent solution. But let's face it, it's been working like this for a century. If you ask me, so why has it never changed? The only good answer I can give is because it's still making money. But is that the way to go to the future? Is there something else going on out there that really demands for another solution? The answer is clearly yes. So we basically compare that with what is going on in the world, and it's just totally different trends. You see so many industries changing their behavior, their business model, whether it's the Ubers of this world changing the taxi industry, Airbnb changing the hotel industry, Spotify changing the music industry, Netflix changing the broadcasting industry. A lot of industries are reshaping themselves under pressure of newcomers. The car industry isn't reshaping itself. The only thing that is evolving is the car. And you could even say that if you compare the car with a mobile phone, with a smartphone, I would dare to say that the car has evolved less in the last 50 years than a smartphone in the last 5 years. So there is probably some space to be a little bit more humble in this industry, whereas, as we all know, the car industry is rich, powerful, extremely arrogant. So we said, let's change that. Let's do Control-Alt-Delete and change to something fundamentally different. What has been done is working, and there's still a lot of people that are gonna buy cars for a lot of time, but we see that there's more and more a growing group of customers who are open for something very different. So we said, let's look a bit at what's going on in the marketplace. What are the big consumer trends? And we actually focused on 3 trends that we believe are fundamentally relevant to what we're doing here. The first one is quite interesting, is that we see a growing trend, and actually globally, both in China, US, as in Europe, that people seem to hold experiences more and more important over ownership. I like to call it the dematerialization. People do things instead of buy things. And you see that trend, interestingly, happening everywhere. Even in China, a market that is still the biggest premium market in the world, where until 5 to 10 years ago, we called it the bling bling markets with the big Prada, Louis Vuitton, Mercedes in gold logos. Even there, you see it fading away to people spending quality times for weekend trips, yoga, fancy dinners, doing cool things, doing fun things rather than buying expensive things. And of course, the consequences of this trend are quite massive, because it also means if you care less about the things you own, you're of course much more open to share them. So it opens the entire sharing industry. And I know that there's a lot of people who still doubt about sharing cars. I find that very naive to even doubt that, because if you would have said 20 years ago, people are going to share their houses with strangers, you would have just laughed. People would have laughed. Even the researchers would have laughed. And now Airbnb is the most common thing. We all know it. We all accept it. I had a conversation some months ago with a colleague, CEO of an OEM, won't tell the name, of course, who told me, Alain, cars are like toothbrushes. You don't share them. I think that person will find himself being wrong very, very soon, and it's already happening. So the experience over ownership, which generates in sharing, is, I think, the first trend. The second one is much more obvious, is that the human being has always had the need for mobility to go from A to B. What we see now happening in the last decade, most of all, is that the mobility need is joined by the connectivity need. I find it quite intriguing that, of course, the car industry is fully into the mobility industry, but if you look at particularly the younger generation, they are not so interested in the technology language that we or that this industry, the car industry, uses. If I have a 26 and a 22-year-old son, when I talk to them about torque or about horsepower or 0 to 100 in X seconds, they look at me like I'm a dinosaur. And interestingly enough, all these dinosaurs they're dying out. It's these people who talk that language, they're dying out. And even though there's more in some countries like in other, there's a lot of technical nerds and real experts in the German market, for example. But we see everywhere this growing trend of people who care less about these technical details. They just want to have a top quality car, safe car with the latest technology. When my son enters one of my new company cars, they don't ask me how many horsepower do you have, what's your fuel consumption, what's your speed from 0 to 100. The only thing they ask me is, do you have Wi-Fi? So the connectivity and the mobility needs become one. If you have the coolest car without connectivity, your car is not cool. So it's as simple as that. So that's the second trend. The third trend is, I think, probably the most important one, and it's sustainability. The new generation cares about this planet. I hear a lot of people saying sustainability is just a buzzword, and it's true. It's become a buzzword, but it's a hell of a good buzzword to have. If you continue to use a certain word, and you continue to repeat a certain desire, there's a bigger chance, I think, that things begin to happen. And I think that any company, from my point of view, if you don't have a truly sustainable strategy or a truly sustainable commitment, I don't think you deserve employees nor you deserve customers. I think it's quite interesting that, however, within the car industry, suddenly all car manufacturers are sustainable, which is quite interesting. You should know that the average car on this planet is used for 4%. It stands idle for 96%. a company that maximizes sales of such an expensive product that is idle for 96% of the time should not call itself sustainable. That's my personal view. But suddenly all car manufacturers call themselves sustainable. Why? Because suddenly everybody builds electric cars, which are, of course, more sustainable. But then if you're very realistic, why is suddenly electric cars booming? Because actually it was started by one company that didn't even happen to be within the car industry, that came as an outsider. So there's this, again, and I know that I'm a bit skeptical here, but I truly am. I've worked in this industry for 35 years. I've seen it all happening, and I think there's about time to do something about it. So we use this information, these three trends: experience over ownership, connectivity next to mobility, and sustainability, as a platform to base our new business model. So basically our business model was, let's not have a car and sell it. Yes, we have a car and we think it's a cool car, but let's use it to create a mobility platform that tackles all these issues. Let's not just sell the car, but let's sell mobility contracts, memberships in which you have the utilization of a car for a month, and it's a monthly contract where you pay 500 euros and you get a car for a month. In this car, it's a hybrid car. You use that for 1 month, and during that month, you use it as much as you want, but you can also share it as much as you can. And I don't have it in this presentation, but the sharing option is brutally simple, very easy to use for anybody, and it has two advantages. Of course, you lower your costs, so you can basically reduce your 500 euro all the way to zero. In an extreme case, you can even make a small profit out of it. But most of all, our objective is not to get as many cars as possible on the road. It's to have these cars utilized as often as possible. So you also contribute to a sustainable footprint. So that's basically the whole simplicity. But we also want to create a community, and I'll tell a bit later about that. I'm a strong believer that if you have a great product and a great service, that's not enough. You're copyable, and if somebody comes with a better service at a lower price, you're dead. So basically, I believe in building also a physical experience and an emotional connection to a brand, and we'll touch that in a minute. But first, maybe we, of course, have a car also, and we also said that from a car point of view, we need to tackle things in a very different way. First of all, I've, being around in this industry, always been shocked about the immense complexity of ordering a car. You have usually 14 colors, 5, 6 wheel sizes in different designs. You have leather in black, brown, gray, God knows what. Then you have hundreds of options, and you have millions of build combinations. It's absolutely insane. I don't think that is a premium experience. So what we decided is we just have 2 colors, black and blue, and no options. Everything is included. So the choice becomes very, very simple. Also, we want to make this car as sustainable as possible, not only from a technology emissions point of view, but also the materials used. For example, we're very proud to be, I think, the only car manufacturer that doesn't use leather seats, which are so popular, so old-fashioned. We only use Econyl as a fabric for our seats, which is actually made from recycled fishing nets. And I can assure you it doesn't smell as such. It's quite good premium. So that's a bit about the car. We can talk more about that later. And then we said, yeah, I know, with no disrespect for dealers whatsoever, but we said, let's do something else than building these dealerships. And again, just as a reference point, we did not want to make dealerships. I've been around for quite a while, and if I would tell you, after 34 years, I still have not met the family that wakes up on a Sunday morning and the father tells his children, kids, I got good news today, we're going to our car dealership today. It's not gonna happen, and it's never gonna happen. It's not a fun place to be. it's just not a customer-friendly environment. So we said, let's not do it. Let's not have dealerships. Let's have clubs that are in the middle of the city, that are really cool events to hang out, where you also want to come if you're not at all interested in a car, or if your car doesn't need repair, where you just come, hang out, and you have very cool stuff that is from local artists, that is sustainable, etc. And of course, you have a car. We always have one car, and I wanted to show you some of the pictures of our clubs. There's always one car. It's always in a cage because it's the beast. We have our pop-up stores also in some of the cities, like this one, where we just are present for a couple of weeks. And I'll show some more pictures so you have an idea. Everything in these clubs is for sale. This is actually a picture of the new Antwerp club in my hometown that we opened 2 or 3 weeks ago. And I hope you'd agree with me that it doesn't look like the traditional car dealership, because we just want people to come in, even if they have absolutely no interest in a car. But we also use these locations to have events where we invite our members and have, whether it's a local DJ or a fashion designer or a cocktail mixer, so we have our evening events so that we really create this, I would say, this mood around the brand. I think is some pictures left. To the next one, or was it the last one? Yeah, that's also in Antwerp with the famous Antwerp hands, the interpretation from Lynk and Co. And that's the outside view. We always try to be in beautiful historical buildings, but always pure downtown. That in as far as the clubs is concerned. So the name, I often get the question, why Lynk & Co? It doesn't sound like a car brand. That was precisely the intention. Actually, I've read some articles that explained the name, which I thought was quite funny. It said Lynk is the car, Lynk & Co is because it's more than a car. It actually sounds very intelligent, but we weren't that intelligent. We just sat in a taxi, I think about 4 years ago, said we need a name that doesn't sound at all like a car name. We had Lynk as a code name, and then we used the and sign that we think is more used in the fashion industry than in the car industry. A lot of people internally also had a real problem with it because it sounds so different. But we just liked it. We didn't research it. We just liked it and went ahead with it. And maybe a last point, I think it's so we really try, as I said, we didn't think we need another car brand, so we decided not to be one. We try to create a culture. I'm very proud to say that in this macho industry, which the car industry is, it's dominated by men. It's pretty male. It's pretty macho. It's pretty boring. We have the objective to have 50% women in the organization. I think we're currently at 47, so we're not doing bad. 80% of my team is of non-car people, to really make sure that we do something else. Of course, there's car experts, the engineers, the service people are car experts, but we really try to build that environment where change is possible. We're currently now located an office here in Göteborg, where I am today. We have offices in Amsterdam, in Milan, in Barcelona, in Paris, in Antwerp, in Brussels, in Maastricht, and we're spreading out. Very good reactions until now, way above our expectations. We had a target for about 9,000 members for 21, and we're now at close to 23,000. So at the end of August, so we're very happy. Is this the end of the mobility journey? I don't think so, but we're pretty happy with the journey that we've started, and we know it's very, very different. We know there's a lot of people who will say, not interested, I will just buy a car. I always say, according to our statistics, there's about 90% of the car buyers out there who will still buy a car, but 10% who are open for something radically different. There's about 100 car brands for these 90%, but there's not really a car brand for these 10%, and that's what we would want to be. That's basically it. I hope I stayed more or less in the time, and then I'm open to answer any questions that you may have.
Alain, so it's more of a car culture versus a brand, and I really like what you said about horsepower being replaced by Wi-Fi in the new generation. So let's get to our Q&A. First question is, how can you guarantee that a shared car will always be available if I don't buy it?
Yeah, and we can't. And of course, in the beginning, it's a little bit like Uber. Sometimes you order an Uber and there is not a car available. So we will have the same. And particularly in the beginning, of course, where our car park is limited, we have to be honest, you will have the app, you will ask for a car and there's maybe not one available. So we cannot exclude that risk.
And we also have one about car insurance. How do you manage insurance issues with shared cars?
Yeah, that of course has been a key question for us. The good thing is that, Lara, as you can imagine, the insurance industry has more or less adjusted to the sharing industry. So we have worked very closely with insurance companies to make sure that the car, the user, and the borrower are insured. So if you have a contract, you have a car, you share it to somebody else, and we have made sure within the €500 that the insurance of you, your car, and the user are included.
Okay, I want to talk to you about the subscription model. Can you tell us more about that? What exactly is the cost?
So it's €500 is the cost. That's what you asked, right? The cost.
Yes.
Yeah, the €500 is the cost, which is a monthly cost. It includes everything except the petrol. So service is included, insurance is included, everything is included. You basically also, when your car needs a service, you don't have to contact a dealership. We will contact you because we have the software in the car that we know that your oil filter needs to be changed or you need to have winter tires. That's also included. So we contact you, we say, Lara, your car needs a winter service. When can we pick it up from your place? Do you need a replacement car? We service it and we bring it back.
Okay, there's nothing more stressful for a car owner than having to have last-minute car repairs. I know I don't have a car anymore, so I don't have to worry about that. What do you think about the cost in the future? Will it become cheaper?
The cars or
the subscription model?
Well, let's see. It depends, of course, if we want to add additional services or not. We believe that what we offer now is what I think fits to the requirements of today, but the world moves on so quickly, so we don't exclude adding other services. And let's look at, I think, let's be honest about it, €500 per month is not cheap. And we've never said that we're going to be the cheapest, but it's one of the communication challenges that we have is to make people understand that if they calculate how much their car costs today per month, they will very quickly find out that it's easily above the 500. So it's part of the education process. Yeah.
And you don't have to rent it for the whole year. You could just rent it for a month here, a month there,
exactly.
Rent it out, and then earn the money back. Okay, that brings us to the end of our session. Thank you very much, Alain Visser, the CEO of Lynk & Co. I look forward to seeing one of your lounges in Berlin.
Look, we're going to be there in 2 weeks, so look forward to see you there.
Oh, great. Good.